6 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to do something I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm going to bring a plate back to the Bronx because the plate comes from a church in the Bronx where I was baptized. The building where the church was is empty from what I understand, but I'm going to bring it to the museum up there. And while I'm there, about 2 blocks down from the church is the house that my mother more or less grew up in. She had immigrated here as a little girl from Germany and then pretty much all of her life lived up in this one little house in the Bronx. I don't know all of the story, but I know this, that her mother and her father loved her and her brother, who was my uncle. Okay, now the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was part of this family, of course, my whole life. It's a stupid thing to say, I guess. But when my grandfather became ill, it would have been 60 years after what I'm talking about right now. So 60 years in the future, he's lying on his deathbed, and my mom was somewhere. I can't remember where she was. And I went to the hospital, and I was looking at my grandfather lying there with lifeless. And the phone rang, and it was my mother. And I said to my grandfather, "Papa, my mom's on the phone." And it was like he came out of a coma. I mean, he wasn't in a coma, but he was just out. His eyes were closed. He wasn't saying anything. Mm-hmm. When he heard that his daughter, who he loved, my mother, was on the phone, he came out of it. Mm-hmm. And he was on the phone, hello, hello, and he was talking and talking. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is like night and day," right? Uh-huh. Shortly after that, he died. Right? Mm-hmm. Shortly after that, he died. My mother considered that phone call one of the best gifts that he gave her. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I come from a family that if I hadn't learned how to love by observing other family members, I don't know why I wouldn't have. Dr. Charles Garfield is on the phone. He's got so many credentials, and he's got a book called Life's Last Gift. And it is that book that made me think of that story to share with you as a way to introduce Dr. Garfield. He's a psychologist. He's the founder of the Shanti Project, which is widely acclaimed as an AIDS and cancer service organization. I believe Elton John's getting a prize, not related to that, but for his work with as a philanthropist against AIDS. Dr. Garfield trains volunteers to offer comfort at the bedsides of the dying. He's a clinical professor of psychology in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of California School of Medicine in San Francisco. And if I read his credentials, we wouldn't have any time to talk about his book, Life's Last Gift. So let's talk to Dr. Garfield. Good morning, sir. It's an honor to have you on our show. Thank you for your work, by the way, and for being on the show.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
Are you in San Francisco right now?
Right outside of San Francisco.
My gosh. How are you doing with the fires that you just had there?
Well, it's pretty much gone now, but there are quite a few people who are in distress because of lost homes and all sorts of other things.
The book makes us think about the dying, but not necessarily the those who die abruptly, like these crazy people with the guns that shoot churches and things like that. I mean, that's 1 minute a 14-year-old is alive, and the next minute she's gone. There was no time to have that last breath to say, "I love you."
Absolutely, but what there is a grief process for all those family members who just lost somebody they love, and many of the ideas in the book, and the reason I wrote the book, was that those ideas are applicable to people who are grieving as well as people who are dying.
And I like the fact that it's written in the first person.
Well, it's 43 years of work at the bedsides of hundreds of people who've died and their loved ones, and what I've realized is that there are so few user-friendly resources. We have a book for almost everything, except when it comes to dying, when it comes to end of life and how to be and what to say and what to do, we have so few user-friendly resources that actually tell us how to handle the situation, and that's why I wrote the book.
We have a wonderful hospice program in our community. I benefited from it myself when my dad was dying, and also when my mom was dying. It seems like we need this. It seems like what you're talking about in the book and the kind of services that a hospice organization can provide is necessary. Why do you think that is? Why is it necessary?
Why is it necessary to have those services?
Yes. Why do we need that? Why, in all of human existence, we didn't have this. We just sort of kind of knew what to do. I guess, I don't know if instinctively is the right way to say that. But
Well, one of the reasons we need it is because now people don't live near their loved ones. People live far away. There used to be something called neighborliness, and the neighbors would come together. Now we hardly know our neighbors in many communities.
Yeah.
And that's what's wonderful about this book is that it is written for the people to help with the dying, but you can take these lessons through every day of your life from being a child on.
Thanks so much for noticing the secret of the book. I wish that more people did. This is about human relationships. It's about how to be with another person in a loving fashion in any aspect of life, but it focuses, of course, on at the end of life, but there's that set of commitments that I wrote about in the book that are applicable to any relationship anytime.
Have you ever known a child that got this? Because this seems like wisdom that only somebody who's lived a long time would have. But I think I've met some children. Have you?
Yes, absolutely. I worked with children with cancer, and one of the things you see is this unbelievable maturity that sometimes happens among the young ones where they know instinctively how to handle it. And I don't mean that they know all the fine points, but they know how to be with somebody. They know how to get close. They know how to express love and affection. And sometimes as adults, we talk ourselves out of our best instincts. And, I talk in the book about how little things can sometimes mean the most, just being there and showing up and paying attention. The little ones sometimes know that instinctively.
Can you give us any stories? Can I ask a specific story? Have you ever been with somebody who was dying, who just was simply bitter, and that love, as much as you were trying to, as maybe family members were trying to express love so that maybe the dying would be a little bit, I don't know, more palatable? I don't even know how to ask that question. But have you ever seen somebody who was just simply bitter and it was hard to break through to them?
Absolutely. And, one of the most amazing experiences one can have is I was the psychologist in the room when the family members left after a long visit. And sometimes the visit would be acrimonious and people would fight and there'd be bitterness in the way that you're talking. And then the family members leave. And I ask the person in the bed, "Oh, how did it go? How do you feel about it?" And they would speak in very loving fashion about their family, as if they couldn't say the words to the family members because of long years of not being close, but they could say it to me. So just because the dying person doesn't express the love and affection and may be bitter, doesn't mean they don't feel closeness with family members.
You talk about empathy in your book, and I really am still a little confused on the total definition, although your observations have really helped me understand what it is.
Empathy is the imaginative entrance into the world of another person's experience. In other words, if I'm caring for you, if I'm taking care of you, I want to know as much as possible about what you're going through, what you're actually experiencing, and I can imagine myself in the same situation and ask the question, what would I need? What would be going on for me? Right. And it's probably close to what's going on for you.
But you can't really lose yourself in that. You still have to keep yourself a little removed, right?
You have to you can't identify so completely with the other person that you lose the fact that there are two of you there, and you have to, as the caregiver, maintain a kind of compassionate distance from the other person, just a little bit, so that you can continue asking yourself the question, what's the best thing for me to say? What are the best things for me to do here in this situation right now?
What is your observation on the effect that religious beliefs have had on somebody dying or the family of somebody who's dying?
It's all over the map. There are some people who derive a tremendous amount of nurturance and support from their religions, and there are some people for whom it just doesn't translate at all. And you can't come up with formulas that say it's always this way or it's always that way. You have to know the person, you have to know their history, and you have to ask them the questions about religion, and does it make sense to them? Does it provide some support?
You talk about listening and speaking as well, and sometimes people have to really learn how to listen.
They do have to learn. When we listen, when we pretend to listen to one another over lunch or dinner or any time, sometimes you're talking and I'm supposed to be listening to you, but I'm really thinking about all sorts of other things. Listening from the heart, that we talk about in the book, means really focusing on the other person, really paying attention to what they're saying, and listening in a way that allows you to hear deeply into the meaning of what they're trying to communicate.
Charles Garfield is on the phone. He has written a beautiful book. It's called Life's Last Gift, Giving and Receiving Peace When a Loved One is Dying. If I could, do I have to take a break? Let me take a tiny break. I want to ask you about the person who passes, who pretty much passed already because they had disappeared to Alzheimer's or some kind of dementia, and what that is like, and maybe shed some light on that whole thing. Let's push a button. We will be right back.
This thing on? Hello. Hey, this is Nunzio, and I want to invite you to the Ocala Civic Theater to see me and Frank and Emma and Aida and, our grandson Nicky in a play called Over the River and Through the Woods. It's a comedy, very heartwarming. It's about your favorite grandparents, us. We're on stage through November 12th. Get your tickets when you call 352-236-2274 or get them on the internet thing, at OcalaCivicTheater.com. Grazie.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Monday, some fog to start. Otherwise, times of clouds and sun with a passing shower. The afternoon high between 81 and 85. Then patchy clouds Monday night. Lows ranging from about 60 inland to near 70 along the coast. A nice day for Tuesday with a mix of clouds and sun, high 80 to 84. And for Wednesday, partly sunny, nice and warm, high 82 to 86. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
The City of Ocala Department of Recreation and Parks are proud to present the 34th annual Light Up Ocala on November 18th. The fun starts on the square in downtown Ocala from 4 to 9 p.m. There'll be food vendors, 4 stages of entertainment, Whoville, Theme Kids Zone, the Downtown Holiday Skating Rink, crafts, the Junior Sunshine Christmas Parade around the square, and at about 7:30 p.m., the official Downtown Lighting Ceremony. See you at Light Up Ocala.
We all know the name Verizon, but we may not know all the services provided. Be sure and listen Wednesday the 8th at 9:50 a.m. when Martin Burville, Senior Vice President and Group President of Verizon Business Markets, will be our guest. Martin will be identifying risks and rewards this shopping season. You'll hear some ideas to help small businesses and consumers. Again, that'll be November 8th at 9:50 a.m. More news to use from WOCA The Source.
All right, 19 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Dr. Charles Garfield is on the phone. The book is called Life's Last Gift. Doctor, could you talk about what I kind of hinted we would talk about it before the break? Have you been with somebody or been with a family of somebody who... Robert and I play music, okay? And there's a lot of nursing homes in our area. And some of those nursing homes are dedicated to people with dementia. And so just so you know where this question comes from, some of the family members say, that's not my mom. That's not her anymore. I don't know who that is. And so it's almost like the person has passed already.
Well, there's a tendency to feel that way, but what I would counsel and suggest strongly is that just remember that the last 2 sense modalities to go are touch and hearing. And if they can feel your touch, and if they can hear what you're saying, even if they can't explain themselves, even if they can't communicate particularly well, they may still be there. A portion of them may still be there. It's not the mother or father that you knew. It's not the person that you knew. The personality, the way you lived with it all those years, is largely gone. But it's still a compassionate act and a loving act to be able to talk gently and kindly, to be able to touch and hold a hand. Don't distance yourself and run away just because that person is not there.
Yeah, to be with someone, actually physically be with someone, not on, Skype or anything like that on the smartphones, but to actually take the time to be with the person.
Ask yourself what you would want in the same situation. You wouldn't want all the people who are important to you to not show up. Mm-hmm. And what you want most is for the people you care about most in the world to be there. to be there as often as they can be there and to be supportive of you. And it's not unusual that people are somewhat abandoned at this point. That's why one of the reasons I wrote the book is to show family members and friends that they can do this work, that they can be there. It's not as intimidating and frightening as it once seemed.
You know, you've worked with people with AIDS, and I wanted to bring up celebrity just real briefly. Once in a while, there'll be a celebrity who passes, who, for one reason or another, we have become close to, even though we've never met them. I'll give you a good example of somebody who died of AIDS. There was Freddie Mercury from Queen. When I didn't even know that he was ready to die or going to die, and then I heard the news he died, and I felt like I lost a friend. And then it was weird because for a while there I couldn't listen to any of his music, and then I could. Now I know it's kind of maybe superficial to apply love and feelings of sadness when somebody dies to a celebrity because you don't really know them. But I'm guessing I'm not alone in what I just expressed.
No, people are invested heavily in celebrity. They invest an enormous amount of emotional energy in connections with celebrities, and then when somebody dies, the grief reaction that happens seems confusing. You know, how come I'm feeling grief even though I never knew the person?
Right, yeah.
But you did know the person. You had an emotional connection with their, in this case, the music, with their work, with who they are as people. You were heavily invested in that person's life. So it's not unusual that grief reaction would happen.
Sometimes when people are starting to get confused and they cannot make decisions on their own, you have to have paperwork involved to grant guardianship to other people in the family. How do you keep that from feeling cold and heartless?
No, it's not cold and heartless. In fact, what all of us need to do, you and me and everybody listening, is to have your documents in place, have your wishes in place on paper. Make sure that somebody, more than one person who you're close to and your physician, know what your wishes are, so that when the time comes, you will get what you want rather than what the healthcare system may decide to do. And, you know, I had a situation recently where a friend died, and one of the last things she said to her husband is, "My do not resuscitate order is in my purse. Don't let anybody violate it."
Oh,
and they did,
Wow.
and they did exactly what she said, because she was able to advocate and her husband was able to advocate for her.
I don't know if what I'm about to tell you is going to make you think I'm a nut or to question anything, but I just please hear it for what it is. We do a radio show, obviously, and so my dad, he got sick on Father's Day, which is June. He died like in the late November, so he was pretty much dying for a very long time in a hospital bed. The day after his funeral, we did an interview with a lady who said she was psychic, and she, as far as I know, had no way of knowing anything about my personal story. And she told me, now this is where you might think I'm a nut, she told me that my father was with her, and that he was saying, "I know you did everything you could, but this was the best thing for me." And I thought, oh my gosh, whether she's really psychic or not, that is probably true. If there is another side, if there is an afterlife, that's probably exactly what he's saying.
I don't think that's crazy at all. I don't think you're a nut at all. I think that the people at the end of life have experiences where they're at least considering the possibility of life after death. And it doesn't matter what you think when you're feeling healthy and strong and you don't believe in something or you do believe in it. What matters is what's going on at the end of life, what's going on after the death. And it's not unusual for people to want to know if they can make contact with their loved ones. I'm not saying I know about afterlife.
Yeah.
I don't know more than anybody else.
Yeah.
I think it's important to take it as a possibility.
All right, I have a question to ask you. This is based on the movie Steel Magnolias. In the movie, it's an old movie, right? Steel Magnolias. Sally Field's daughter is Roberts, Julia Roberts. Okay.
Yes.
And Julia Roberts' character dies, and Sally Field is going through grief. And then the other pretty lady, what's her name from Splash?
Daryl Hannah.
Daryl Hannah, her character, she says to Sally Field, she says, "Don't worry, she's in a better place," or something religious of that nature. And Sally Field says, look, I know what you believe, and I believe things too, but it doesn't change anything. Right now she's gone, and I'm sad. Even she might be in a better place, but right now I'm sad. What is your advice to us in dealing with other people who have lost a loved one? Because when I saw that scene in that movie, I thought, okay, I'm taking notes. I'm never going to say that to somebody. Because it looked like, okay, I can see why that might not be the best thing to say.
Well, two things. One is, don't worry about the perfect thing to say. All of us say things that are not quite perfect from time to time. But the heart of the matter is that people miss the form. You miss the contact with the person. Even if let's just assume they're in a better place. You and I don't know that, but let's assume we still miss the contact with them. We still grieve the loss of that intimacy.
Yeah.
And you stress how stories are very important, not just to the people that are surviving, but to the people who are dying. Some you had written in there about my father, and that he wanted a few stories to be known about him and treasured.
Absolutely. We're storytelling people. That's when people at the end of life tell their stories, they're actually telling you about the long arc of their life. They're telling you about people you may never have known in their own history. They want you to know who they were, and the two themes that pop up in those stories more than anything are people they loved and work they were proud of. Love and work. So if you want to focus on the best use of your life, focus on love relationships and work you're proud of.
You know, the one thing is, if we could take this almost as I'm going to use a crazy metaphor, almost as a jam or a jelly, and spread it across our whole lives instead of just at the end of life, I think we would be a more peaceful people.
Absolutely. That's why I wrote the book. It's a discussion of human relationships, not just at the end of life, but in general.
That is beautiful. Doctor, obviously your experience is showing itself. Thank you for coming on the air to share some of that with us. I have a copy of the book. It's called Life's Last Gift. Call me if you want the copy that was sent to us. The rest of us have to go buy it. I did find it on Amazon. Looks like you're getting good reviews. I read some of the reviews earlier. And so I found it on Amazon. How else can we get the book? Do you have a website?
Yes, charlesgarfield.com.
Okay, easy enough. Charles, thank you for being on the air with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is JP from Penn Flooring here in Ocala. I would like to invite you to come in and visit our spacious showroom where we have solutions for every style and budget. From wall-to-wall carpet to hardwood floors and tiles, we have an unsurpassed selection of flooring. At Penn Flooring, we've provided quality customer service with a family touch for over 25 years. Visit our website at pennflooring.com or come by our showroom, 1201 Southwest 17th Street, just over the bridge. Penn Flooring, quality customer service with a family touch.
If you or a loved one is suffering with knee, shoulder, neck, back pain, or tennis elbow and would like to learn how to get out of pain, go to Regenetic.com. Then listen in on the first and third Thursday at 10 a.m. to the people that give you the regenerative medical solutions to your pain. Regenetic. First and third Thursdays, 10 a.m. here on WOCA 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu.
Shooting on the way in, shooting on the way out.
Wilson County Sheriff Joe Tackett on the shooter who left 26 people dead at Sunday services in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Suspect Devin Kelly found dead a town over from what the sheriff says was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Some of the attack caught on tape.
Like many churches, they record their sermons on Sunday so they can watch them back. I asked the sheriff about that. He said that at least part of the shooting, a small part of it, was indeed recording. Federal authorities, local authorities are going to be going through that today to see if it gives any motive.
Fox's Caroline Shively. The president blaming the shooting on mental health issues, saying it's not a gun problem. He's on the first stop of his Asia tour, Japan, where he suggested the U.S. arm Japan with new anti-missile technology to knock down North Korean missiles. Fox News. We report. You decide.
This is a court-ordered notice. Current and former Honda and Nissan owners or lessees can receive payments and other benefits from a legal settlement related to allegedly defective Takata airbags in their vehicles. To see if your vehicle is included and to file a claim, go to autoairbagsettlement.com or call 1-888-735-5596. That's autoairbagsettlement.com or 1-888-735-5596.
Hey guys, your prostate should be the last thing on your mind, but the fact is, the older you get, the more likely you'll have prostate problems, which can affect your everyday life. That's where Prostate Complete by Real Health comes in. Prostate Complete is the result of 20 years of experience as a leader in men's health. The powerful formula in Prostate Complete supports natural prostate function and reduced urinary urges for a better quality of life. Available at Walmart. Visit prostateoneperday.com for special offers. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Here are today's headlines from The Source, WOCA. It remains to be seen how much the average American will benefit from the Republican tax reform proposal. Economist Barbara Caldwell of St. Leo University here in Florida weighs in on the subject.
For some individuals, this sounds like it could be a very good thing, and it could. One of the things I think people have to be informed about is this idea of we're going to lower taxes. The question that comes to my mind is, well, then who's going to pay for all the public goods that we have that are paid for by taxes?
Republicans say the Tax Cut and Jobs Act will slash taxes for middle-class Americans and corporations. Some FEMA deadlines have been extended, but emergency officials say you still have to hurry if you're applying for assistance after Hurricane Irma.
FEMA spokesperson David Burns says you have until November 24th to apply for a low-interest loan.
This will give people an additional several weeks in which to register for assistance.
Burns says they've also extended short-term help to people staying in hotel and motel rooms.
And that aid has been extended to the night of December 2nd with a checkout on the 3rd.
Meantime, the statewide deadline to apply for emergency small business loans is November 30th.
The Dow Index is coming off its 8th straight weekly gain, but will the good times continue this week? University of Central Florida economist Sean Snaith is bullish heading toward 2018.
I think a lot of the actions to sort of scale back some of the regulatory overreach of the past couple decades really helped to boost growth.
Despite the dysfunction and polarization in Washington, Dr. Snaith says stay focused on the fundamentals of the economy, which he says are actually pretty strong. A new report claims officials at Disney World knew the theme park had problems with alligators at the location where 2-year-old Lane Graves was attacked and killed last year. The Washington Post points to numbers from the State Fish and Wildlife Commission showing that trappers had taken 6 alligators out of the lagoon where the toddler lost his life. Hidden cameras, affairs, a resignation. A leading state senator says it adds up to a conspiracy involving the governor's race and the Speaker of the House.
One lawmaker quit because of an affair with a lobbyist. Another was followed by a private eye. A hidden camera was planted in a hotel used by lawmakers and lobbyists. Senator Jack Latvala says they're all connected.
I am convinced that a lot of what's going on is an organized effort to tear down the Senate prior to session and make us weak, so that we have a hard time standing up on the issues we care about.
Latvala blames the House Speaker, Richard Corcoran, and his allies for trying to undermine the Senate. This could be a preview of the 2018 campaign because Latvala is running for governor and Corcoran is expected to do the same. Rick Flagg, Tallahassee.
Law enforcement is investigating the death of a Florida State University student. 20-year-old Andrew Coffey of Pompano Beach was found dead at an off-campus pledge party on Friday. Paramedics found Coffey unresponsive when they arrived and were unable to revive him. Coffey was a member of the Pi Kappa Phi fraternity living off campus. Officials said right now it